Most hand-to-hand fights, if they're not over in the first few seconds, become entangled. There are obvious exceptions dictated by weapons such as highly regimented sword duels with rapiers and sabres that evolved into sport fencing. But unless there is some form of intervention by a third party, human instinct tends to default to stand-up grappling range. In fact, prior to the restrictive forms of fencing, there is plenty of evidence in various primary source treatises that fencers did use trapping and controlling tactics. This range is not pure wrestling and doesn't necessarily mean, as a lot of 1990s martial arts propaganda would have you believe, that the fight is destined to hit the ground. This is the clinch in its rawest form, where two standing interlocked combatants fight to get their damaging strikes in whilst trying to stop their enemy or opponent from doing the same. The clinch is probably one of the oldest tactics in Western boxing, present since the earliest time humans began clubbing each other with clenched fists in an organised bout. All comprehensive traditional fighting forms have this element, from Filipino eskrima to Okinawan karate, to the pancreation of ancient Greece, as do the majority of strike-based full-contact combat sports. It takes very strict and conservative restrictions on any system that has a live element to eliminate this very primal, instinctive and effective fighting zone. Indigenous Southeast Asian boxing styles have turned grapple striking into an art unto itself. Boxers understand this range is not just about holding onto an opponent and striking. Many tactics and positions allow clinchers to set up their opponents for strikes. Burmese Lethwei fighters are adept at using the clinch to set up headbutts. Cambodian Predel Serre fighters specialise in using the clinch for elbow strikes. Whereas the Nakmois of Muay Thai have developed a truly devastating method for throwing knee strikes in the clinch. Southeast Asian sports fans appear to have a larger appreciation for stand-up striking with grappling range than Western audiences. The West has a rather peculiar relationship with the aesthetics of grappling. Grappling arts remain popular in the West, but this popularity tends to be more with the participants than the spectators. Grappling still features heavily in MMA, and there always have been some exceptional fighters who utilise good clinching skills. But there has been a definite shift since the 2000s towards more kickboxing-based action. Professional wrestling really only survived once it became a staged performance art, mixing the various holds with the more entertaining throws and slams along with a good dose of dramatic striking and high-flying acrobatics, as well as a few other more colourful elements. The sport's major turning point occurred in a carefully orchestrated campaign that culminated in Ed "Strangler" Lewis putting over non-wrestler Big Wayne Munn. This occurred due to the fact that Lewis's bouts were becoming increasingly predictable. No one could beat him, the bouts could go on for up to 5 hours, and Lewis's favourite technique was a headlock. Grappling, as a combative form in live practice, is paradoxically too subtle yet too scruffy for audiences that have a long-established culture of cheering a clean strike. However, many of the fighters in modern boxing history have worked the clinch well. It is important to note that the pre-gloves era of Western boxing is totally different to modern-day bare-knuckle fighting. Both the traveller tradition, Romany and Irish, and the emerging cult sport of today have far more in common with each other than the fights fought in the days of Jack Broughton, Daniel Mendoza, William Bendigo Thompson, Tom Sayers and Jem Mace. For the purposes of clarity, I'll refer to the boxing that became modern Western boxing as the pre-gloves era to distinguish it from traveller and modern bare-knuckle boxing. Traveller boxing bouts, at least in England, are often used as a means for settling disputes between travellers. Typically, there are no rounds, there is no ring, and traditionally women are supposed to be barred from watching. Traveller boxing matches usually go on until one man cannot continue or concedes, settling the argument. According to my grandfather's autobiography, he occasionally had to fight gypsies in his youth to win the rights for our family circus to play on the ground. Modern bare-knuckle boxing does have timed rounds and follows most of the rules of mainstream boxing. This is really the only difference between traveller and modern bare-knuckle boxing, which is why many successful traveller boxers are fighting in these more commercial bouts, and some have even gone on to become very successful full-time professional boxers. Modern bare-knuckle boxing, that is not part of the traveller tradition, seems to be an evolution of the world and culture of unlicensed boxing, which rose to prominence in the 1960s and 70s. The art of pre-gloves era Western boxing died out when the World Championship came under the Queensberry rules system. The style of fighting as described in the treatises of pugilists of this era and the commentary of the writers who cover the bouts little resembled what we see today. Interestingly, the styles of bare-knuckle boxing of today appear to have more in common with mainstream gloved boxing. Fighters probably take a larger percentage of headshots than their 18th and 19th century pre-gloved counterparts, if you take into account the shorter time period. Fighters of the pre-gloved era had other fighting options at their disposal. Traveller and modern bare-knuckle boxers often spend a lot more time selecting their headshots due to the higher risk of damage to their fists. Clinching in Traveller and modern bare-knuckle boxing is discouraged and throws are prohibited. However, this was not the case for the pre-glove era. Pre-glove era fights permitted and actively used a variety of above-the-waist throws much in the same fashion as Greco-Roman wrestling. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Please leave feedback to let me know your thoughts on tactile awareness, trapping and other related themes covered in this video. For more insights, reviews and diary entries as well as details on my products and services, please check out clubchimera.com. Thank you.